out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you. All right, this is for now, the last part of my reading. Okay, I've been wanting to do this for a minute, and this is for you, Dr. J. This is also for you, Dr. Neil. I'm going to start with Tommy Curry's paper. We've already read the last portion of it, as it entails how white feminists actually usurped the civil rights movement. Who really won the? I'm actually probably do that, do a paper on that. Who really won the civil rights movement? But that's for another day. The lower orders of men threaten white womanhood. They're not fit, so to speak, to rule over a more civilized racial group or educated class. Stanton reminded her readers and her Democratic allies, the enfranchisement of black men is merely the first step to male governments by inferiors. Savage men, racialized men are sexist and misogynist toward women. Where we heard that. So it's not even black women's original idea. It comes from their white counterparts. The lowest classes of men are invariably the most hostile to the elevation of woman as they have known her only in ignorance and degradation, and ever regarded her in light of a slave. Implying that the condition of women under black and non-white uncivilized cultures are worse than actual slavery of whites, not unlike previous comments made by Stanton, trying to convince women of their ever-looming dangers associated with black men, the black male vote. It was not so long ago in 1865 that Stanton asked, have not black male citizens been heard to say they doubted the wisdom of extending the right of suffrage to women? Because racial backwardness of black men is brutish. Stanton infers that the political empowerment of black men would be another form of slavery, ain't I, woman, for black women who are still actually enslaved. If the 2 millions of Southern black women were not secured in their rights of person, property, wages, and children, their emancipation is but another form of slavery. That's also where marriage and slavery comes from. In fact, it is better to be the slave of an educated white man than of a degraded, ignorant black one. In other words, what she's trying to say, better to be a white man's slave than a black man's husband. There's an equivocation between the institution of American chattel slavery and the marriage of a black woman to a black man. Boom. Couldn't have said it better. Skipping down. The black men as a class are very tyrannical in their families. They have learned the lessons of brute force all but too well. Color purple, anybody? And as the marriage law allows the husband entire control of a wife's earnings and her children, she is in worse bondage than before, because in many cases the task of providing for helpless children and an idle, lazy husband is imposed on the patient wife and mother. They still say that, right? What have black men built? Black men are lazy, black men ain't shit, right? This is where it comes from. This is in 1865, folks, right as emancipation happened, as black men got the vote. I regard the future state of Negro women without a ballot in her hand as deplorable. And what is said of the ignorant black man can as truthfully be said of the ignorant white man. They all regard women as inferior beings. Despite the evidence that many blacks oppose anti-woman suffrage arguments, there is popular view that says blacks have historically opposed women's suffrage. Stanton reiterated that the vote for black manhood suffrage not only rouses women's prejudice against the Negro, but also on the other hand, it is his contempt and hostility toward her as equals. Stanton implored her readers to see the misogyny of black men towards women. We didn't invent this, folks, and the Combahini Collective didn't invent it either. This is where it comes from. But there's plenty here. At some point, I will probably have to do a deep dive into the whole paper. But this is just, the part I wanted to get out. Okay? What black women, especially black feminists, think of black men did not start with black women. They're basically getting their points from where? White feminists, and it goes way back. I've heard a white feminist say that Sojourner Truth didn't say what she said. It was actually a white woman that misappropriated her words. Now, how true that is, I don't know, but then I would tend to believe it. They didn't want black men to get the vote. They didn't want the black men to get the vote before them, and they fed black women these lies, but black women ate it up. So the color purple is nothing more than white feminists, white suffragettes' words implanted into the psyche of black women, and black men have to suffer for it. Anyhow, it's one more piece I'm going to do, small piece, and this is coming from Dr. Neal, and this will bring it all home, from bell hooks to Dr. Curry to Dr. Neal. From the standpoint of this chapter, such justifications are similar to the religious justifications of slavery that authorize subordination and containment of enslaved people. Such criminalization has impacted areas of political life, particularly domestic policy, namely the welfare state, family courts, and the criminal justice system. Again, the enterprise imagines heterosexual black men as a dangerous population who are threats to white Americans, women, and gay men. It also renders heterosexual black men as inept fathers. Check this out. As inept fathers, husbands, and domestic partners. Where women and gay men are concerned, such men are perceived to be exponentially more threatening than other men, particularly ruling class white men. In other words, the oppressive white men that have exacted more violence on any continent or any people in the world are actually less threatening than black men who have been the recipient of this violence. Where the welfare state is concerned, the government is imagined as a better father, husband, and domestic partner than heterosexual black men are. And I just read that in the Kerner Commission. Okay, just read that. Overall, there is a direct correlation between American public policy and American higher education. Those who imagine public policy are educated elites, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and such elites are informed by the ideologies and academic programs nestled within colleges and universities. At the end of the 20th century, during the first decades of the 21st century, these scholars have produced a genre that reinscribes the mythic view of his heterosexual black men as brutes and savages. I ain't got to say no more. Dr. Neal brought it home. I just want to emphasize that point. It also renders heterosexual black men inept as fathers, husbands, and domestic partners. I was actually on a panel with 4 black women that re-emphasized the same goddamn thing. They re-emphasized the same thing. I heard it coming right out of their mouths. Okay, this is damn near 200 years later. The same damn thing, right out of a black woman's mouths. It has not changed, and it didn't start with us. That's why, in my opinion, that's why the shit can't be fixed. If you can't take blasting caps and blast this out of the culture, blast this out of the minds of not only the broader culture, but also black women, there really is no saving this. Unless black men want to go back into another 100 years of servitude behind all this bullshit. You want to? I can't tell you what to do. But this is clear. It didn't start with us. It started with our enslavers and also our enslavers' women. Why? 1, because they thought of us as lesser. 2, they wanted to be the dominant force in white supremacy right alongside her, man, which is why you didn't get shit or very little out of civil rights. It's why white men took what you fought for and gave it to her, gave it to his woman. And guess who helped? You're a black woman. And this is why, because fortunately, what white women shit, black women eat, okay? What white women eat makes black women shit. I hate to be vulgar like that, but it is what it is. I would love to put this on my main channel, but I am not. I'm gonna put this on my books channel, and I will leave a link to it in my community tab. So if anybody want to wander on over there and read this, because this is not about views, it's about information. But anyhow, I'm gonna bounce off here. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.